just being okay with how to hit the ground as hard as you can.
Right.
With
Yeah,
your
because
back.
you're selling the move, and if you don't look, like it's impactful, then people are just like, oh, okay, they're just doing little bumps, and they don't feel it as much as they need to be feeling it.
Exactly. And then you make your opponent look not believable and weak, and then the
Hmm.
whole match overall is not as effective.
Right. Now, once you got into training, who did you kind of maybe look at video-wise, like when it comes to other wrestlers, or who did you kind of start taking inspiration from?
So once I started training, which, gosh, it was like 9 years ago already.
Wow.
Once I started training, I was at a point in my life, something had happened, and I was extremely depressed. It's probably one of the lowest points in my life. And I said, you know what? Before I'm unable to do something I've always wanted to do, which is pro wrestle, I better do it before it's too late. Like, so my life could have been worse. My life could have changed, or I could have had something happen in my life that kept me from doing anything else. So I said, but that didn't happen, so I should do what I want to do. And so I made the decision to drive every week 3 hours to Reno, which was the closest city from where I was at that time. Yeah, which was cool because I stayed with my best friend, Nicole, for 3 days and train in Reno 3 days, and then drive back and go to my little bartending job back home. And I did that every week for months, several months. And when I started, I didn't even know what wrestlers to think about or look at. They did ask me, and I was like, I don't know. I just thought I thought wrestling looked cool, and I wanted to do it. But as I obviously got to know, and you have to develop your own character, of course.
Mm-hmm.
As I got to know more characters, I took from some of the older wrestlers. Like I liked the 90s chicks. I liked Lita, and I liked Trish Stratus. And I liked the bad guys, but I know that like I didn't want to be a bad guy because I wanted to be liked, and I think that was kind of like an ego thing. But now I realize it's way more fun to be hated.
Yeah.
But who I really liked, because I did not realize until I started pro wrestling that I lacked so much confidence. I had self-esteem, but that's different than confidence. And I just didn't believe in myself. And so I really took to how the Undertaker was a presence, but didn't have to talk and didn't say anything, or say much,
Mm-hmm.
So I remember thinking that I wanted to do that. In the meantime, I started dating who's now a really big name, and I told him that I wanted to wear a mask because I really wanted my pro wrestling to not be about being a hot chick. And yeah, and like that, to be that was what sold me. And he's like, well, you better be a good wrestler. I'm like, well, I plan on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never ended up doing the mask thing, but it also was uncomfortable. It's hot and uncomfortable to wear a mask. And then you learn more about lucha, and like the luchadors and luchadoras wear masks, and I didn't want to get mixed up with being a luchadora.
Well, so I imagine you know who Sami Zayn is. Also, allegedly he was under a mask called El Generico. But I just heard a interview with him recently that he did with Stone Cold, and he said everybody at some point should work under a mask, because not only is it's one of these things where you are able to genuinely be whoever you want to be, because no one knows who's under there, for the most part. And you can really build a character, and you can really just kind of be somebody else that you are not. Like I've heard in an interview before also that that's what you love about pro wrestling is that not that you were very confident going into it, but you really learned how to be confident while being a pro wrestler. And being under a mask, you could really take that to the next level because, again, you could be whoever you want to be. And you have to be better about expressing and selling because they can't see your face. And so you have to be more in tune with what your body's doing and, you know, the head motions and everything like that. So, you know, I'm not saying there's obviously still time for you to work under a mask if that's really what you want to do.
That's true. I appreciate you saying that. So it's true about the mask. For some reason, it psychologically helps people kind of be more genuine. I don't know if that makes sense. I used to teach dance classes to women, specifically pole dance and burlesque. I know, another weird chapter in my life. But it's, you know, they're kind of shy. It's shy to, it's hard to like be sexy and show off your body. That was a big thing in my dance class was whatever our insecurities are, we're going to show them off. Like this lady doesn't like her big thighs, so we did a dance move that shook our thighs like thunder, you know, when like we're proud of it. And like that, because that helped me. That's the way that pro wrestling taught me is you kind of have to overemphasize those things and therefore you can own it. But I noticed when I gave these women masks, they were just like pretty feather masks from like Mardi Gras type thing. As soon as they wore those, they started shaking it better than ever. Like they just started letting loose and letting their sex appeal run. Like interesting, because they can't be seen, or it feels like they cannot be seen. I think that's why people still wear the pandemic masks too, by the way. But that's a different story. But yeah, and to work under a mask because I think that coming up with my own character, I couldn't make a mistake. Like I'm like, this is pro wrestling. It's supposed to be your own character that you make up, but it's still who you are, only embellished, only magnified. But then people are really going to see me for who I am. Like that was like my thought. Like, who am I? Do I even know who I am? And I'm going through this like internal struggle of like, who actually am I to show, to emphasize, to be, you know, like how many times have we really thought of who we are and what we want to display? Because pro wrestling fans will believe whatever you tell them to about yourself. So
that's very true.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. I'm like, I would just kind of went along being myself, and how people wanted to take it, they could take it. But not with pro wrestling. You have to tell them what you're about, who you are, what your plan is, and that's going to be that. But then there was always like a fear of judgment, I guess. And this is the thing, I didn't realize I cared that much about what people thought, but I really cared about being good at pro wrestling, so I wanted to be a good character. But with a mask, you kind of can be something else. It's liberating. So I did this, what was the name of the promotion? I played a heel for a promotion in Mexicali, the most crazy freaking show I've ever done, crazy freaking 2 shows I've ever done. And they called me Sexy Lula. And I wasn't Desi, I wasn't my usual wrestler, and I had to wear a mask. And I was the white girl from the U.S. And I went in and I'm not even white, you know, but excuse me. But I basically beat up their hometown hero, Baronessa. She bled all over the place. I never saw a human bleed that much in the ring.
Oh.
And I had cans of beer thrown at me in the ring and canes swung at my kneecaps outside of the ring. But I was wearing a mask and I did not give a shit. Like it was like watching her bleed like that. It was like this primal, nobody here knows me. Nobody knows what I look like. I'm under this. Like I'm going to kill. It was really cool.
Isn't that like a fun experiment when it comes to like society as well? Because like if anybody has never been to a lucha show, I highly recommend going to a lucha show. I'm
Oh
not just
man.
saying go to a show where luchadors are there. No, go to a show that no English is spoken almost the entire night. There might be 3 white people in the entire place. Those shows are the actual best shows to ever go see pro wrestling because, like you said, you'll have the beer cans thrown at you. You'll have old men and old women. Yes, the chants are almost better than independent shows. You have people from. Actually, I've seen newborn babies there. So newborn babies all the way to, you could imagine they're pushing 100, but they look like they're in their 80s. So that age range is so amazing. Those shows are the best wrestling shows you will ever see in your entire life. And so I'm really glad you got to work one of those because I love those shows. And anytime in Texas, there's more than, most people see, but I'm so glad you were able to work one of those shows and truly experience what a lucha crowd is really like.
Yeah, totally. I mean, right in the heart of it. And at that particular show, there were wrestlers whose whole family lineages have been wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like really big names in the wrestling community. And of course, it's eluded me right now. It'll come back to me in just a second. But she also, this particular female wrestler whose great grandfather was a wrestler, was so intimidating and purposely mean to me. And after I kicked Baroness's ass, it was the second time I went, she shook my hand and gave me the nod. So I was in. Yeah.
Which sometimes that is better than winning any championship you could ever win because it's the acceptance of like, okay, you're cool. You're in.
Yeah, there's something special about it. And I like that because they don't just accept anybody. It reminds me of my Chihuahua, rest in peace, Tita, that they would be that way towards you. Like they would test you and not accept you right away just because they don't know you. You don't deserve the trust yet. But once you earn it and they do, then they're the coolest and most loyal.
There you go. I love that. Now, I've heard that you said, or actually you said it earlier, that you started taking jiu-jitsu to learn or to be a better pro wrestler. How did you kind of put that bridge together that that's what you needed to do to be a better pro wrestler?
By the way, that name came to mind. It's Rossi Moreno, the Moreno family. Does that ring a bell?
Doesn't, but I will do my research right now and figure out.
Rossi? Yes, I believe. R-O-S-C.
Yes. Let me come up with somebody different. Let me put Lucha. Oh, Lucha. Is she in politics now?
I have no idea. I'm pretty certain that's her name.
Romero.
Rossy. Oh, that's just her nickname. I guess her name. She goes by. She was in AAA for sure.
Oh, okay. I just put one S. That could be why. Moreno,
yeah.
Okay, that's right. I definitely did not get that right. There she is. Oh, yes, I've definitely seen her. Oh, yeah, that's she's a bad chick. I've seen her kick some guys' asses before. Of course, she's a former AAA champion and, 2-time Mexican national women's champion.
Yeah, so, yes, man, I've never been intimidated by a woman in my life, and except for her, I'd have to say.
Oh, she was married to Dr. Wagner Jr. Oh, funny.
I don't know. All I know is when they put us in a hotel room in Mexicali waiting for the match or for the event that night, I had another American wrestler with me. But the hotel, when we arrived, had this huge sign advertised that you could rent a sex swing for your stay there. If you wanted a sex swing, they have them available at this hotel. And we went in the room, and then Rossi and a couple other female wrestlers were there, and they just had attitude.